back to my channel. We're doing a glueless closure sewing today. Sometimes it's difficult to get a perfect glueless closure sewing, so I'm gonna be showing you guys how I do mine. Everybody has their own technique and methods, but this is how I do mine, especially for a smaller closure. And for this look, we're not going to be using elastic band, we're not going to be using any glue. We're just going to be doing it, just sewing the closure down. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be sewing using a net. This is very necessary. I know sometimes you can skip this on a traditional sewing, but for the closure, and if you're not using a band, and even if you're using a band, I honestly recommend using this net because it gives you more space to sew on, and it just kind of helps with like the tension as well. I highly recommend using the net. So I went ahead to sew in the net, and after that I cut off the excess and trying to create the space for my closure. The closure is small, it's a 3x6 closure, and yeah, so I'm gonna get my client to hold on to one side of the closure, and just so that it doesn't move while I sew it down. This is very important, just to make sure the closure is flat and to make sure it doesn't move from one side to the other. So I went ahead to sew down the closure. So when doing this, you have to make sure you leave a little bit of space. You can't just put it exactly where your braid starts from. You have to leave a little bit, maybe like an inch or half an inch forward, depending on your client's hairline. My client had a lot of baby hairs, so I had to make sure the closure is covering the baby hairs. So you just use your discretion and just make sure you have enough closure covering the braid and the baby hairs. So I went ahead and sewed on the other side. When sewing this side down, you don't necessarily need to, your client doesn't necessarily need to hold this for you. You can just go ahead and sew it down. And sewing this, you have to sew more on the net, or on the net and the braids together. So in the place where there is no braid, you sew in on the net, and then where there is braids, you can sew in on both the braids and the net, like what I'm showing right here. And that's why you have to make sure you have a really good braid down pattern for this. You can't just have chunky braids, it's probably won't look nice. And after I'm done sewing down the closure, then I'm gonna go to that excess we left at the front. You have to just put in the needle through the closure and through the net at the front. I feel like it's better to sew this on the net just because of the tension. You don't want to put in much tension on your client's hairline, so it's best to just minimize the tension as much as possible. So that's why I advise to sew on the net. So you just keep doing it like so. You pass it through the closure and through the net. And after that, I'll go ahead and cut off the excess lace at the front. Now after doing this, you have to go back and just sew in the closure again, because sometimes when you cut when you sew it with cutting the lace, you're not really sewing it on where that lace ends, if that makes sense. So just better to go back and just sew down the closure at the front, just at the front, at the very beginning. And then I went there to put a bit of needle just to the hair to this side, which is so much easier to blend than every other. And then after that, I just leave the closure out of the way and then the bundles. Just went back to apply a little bit more makeup on the closure just to make sure it's perfectly in there now. Let's style it. And this is the final look for it. Very flat, no glue, no band. Your hairline is safe, your edge has really not leave out. So it's so much easier to do this. I personally recommend this method for a small closure like 2x6 or 3x6 closure. For a 5x5, there have to be a different method. And hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching to the end. Don't forget to leave a comment below, subscribe to my channel, and I will see you next time. Bye.